Hey there folks, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends, The Amazing Spider-Man, Renew Your Vows, Spider-Man, and Spinneret 2-pack. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, so right off the bat I'm going to mention that I would have much preferred to see this art style be used for both of their heads. I do like Spinneret's head sculpt as it is, but I would have much preferred that, and I'm not a fan of the masked Spider-Man head. This head right here, I'm not a big fan of. I would have much preferred something that looked like that. But the Spinneret head, I think, would have looked cool if it looked like that as well. It's got a little bit of the smaller eyes and more serious mouth, or more serious expression, I should say. I would have much preferred to see that. But as far as the packaging goes, it looks pretty cool. It's definitely a lot smaller than I thought these 2-packs were. Just these windowless packaging in general is a lot smaller than I thought they were. But here you can see on the side, you get a render of the figures. In the back, you get another render, as well as the accessories that they come with, and all your necessary information down at the bottom. And another shot of that artwork, very, very sharp. I gotta find out who did that artwork, honestly. And then the little Spider-Man 60 Amazing Years down there, and then some more information down there. So that's the box. I'm gonna move these heads aside, and we're gonna take a look at Mary Jane first, just because, or Spinneret, I should say, just because I really like this figure a lot. So right off the bat, let's take a look at the Spinneret head sculpt first. Have that on the figure. I do really like this figure more than I thought I would. And it also uses a more feminine, heroic feminine body, I would say, than I'm used to seeing from Marvel Legends. I don't really collect a lot of the female figures. I mostly collect Spider-Man related things anyway, but I don't have a lot of female figures, and the ones that I have don't have, you know, the thicker thighs and the more voluptuous body, I guess you would say. So this is a bit interesting to see. And I really do like it. I think they did a good job with it for the most part, and I'd like to see the bicep swivel and the double jointed elbows, so that's really, really cool to see. And as far as the head sculpt goes, I do like it. I think it would have been kind of cool to get a more serious expression. But I think, as it is, they did a really good job. The paintwork is really clean on it. And I don't know, it definitely looks pretty good. And I would say that, for the most part, these look like the same people. Her cheeks look a little bit chubbier over here, but she is smiling, so I guess that makes sense. But I definitely like this head sculpt. Just would have been nice to see a more serious expression, just because that's generally how I lean towards, that's my preference, I guess. But they did a really nice job with the hair sculpt. It is a separate piece. And again, really nice clean paintwork. As far as the webbing goes, it looks like it's pretty good. No real hiccups. There is a definite, very clear distinction between the color of her upper body and her lower body. This is molded red, and then these areas are painted red. Well, actually, it looks like that's molded as well. I don't know why there's such a color difference. It looks like maybe these were both molded in red, and then for some reason this was painted red over the top of it, and this is the molded red. Because if you look right here, you can see the molded red, and it looks like this color right here is the same as this color, but then maybe they painted over the top of it. No, I take that back. It's probably just because of the difference in plastic. But there's a definite color between this and this. But yeah, the figure looks pretty good. Again, like I said, it's got really nice sculpt work for the body. I think it looks really good. And I would compare this to the Marvel Legends Mary Jane figure that we got. But that figure is currently on the workbench. So I'll be doing a video for that when it's done. And that's one of the reasons I got this 2-pack, was for this head. So that will be going on there. But everything looks really good in it. You know, I wasn't crazy over the pinless joints, but it definitely looks really nice on this figure. The figure is all white, so it looks really, really clean. So I really like that. And you get the little webbing down here. and these are a loose piece. And as far as the costume design goes, I do like it. This is probably the most out of place thing for me, just the reverse and the webbing. There's a lot of Spider-Man related characters that have that kind of reversed webbing just in random spots, like Miles Morales' gloves and just different things like that, where they just have a reversed webbing in random spots. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. I would much preferred, as far as the design goes, for this to be more consistent with the boots. I do get why it's there though, because it's folded over on itself, so it makes sense, but it doesn't really fit with anything else. But I do like the design of the costume. It's very reminiscent of like the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, where it kind of has that same pattern where it cuts off at the arms, but then obviously it's not a belt down here, it's more of in the shape of like trunks. So I do like it. It's pretty unique. And I do like the spider a lot. I actually like her spiders a lot more than I like Peter's chest and back spider. And this does fit. I don't know what this is for, but you can fit a Mace Vex base in there if you want to do that. So I really do like this a lot. Let's take a look at the other head. This is really, really sharp. I like this a lot. The sculpt is really nice, and it's nice to see the bangs. I like that. The previous head sculpt, well, this actually is the previous head sculpt. I believe this is the same head sculpt they used in the Gwen Stacy retro card. But as far as the previous Mary Jane figure, this is the previous head sculpt. You can see the freckles are a lot more noticeable, which this one does have freckles. It's just really, really tiny. I don't know if you guys can see that, but they are there. It's a lot more to scale than these ones were. And she does have the bangs. They're just, this one's more on your face, which I like that. And also it's a little bit of a smaller head sculpt, and it takes up less room because this figure had the hair's a lot bigger. And this one does have some shading in the hair. I would say that I like that more, but overall I prefer this color. And then her eyes are more blue this time around, more of a turquoise, whereas before they were straight green. Definitely prefer this head sculpt a lot more. I like that. Just to get an idea what this looks like on the figure again. You can see that there. Definitely pretty sharp. I like that. And then if you wanted to get an idea of what the previous head sculpt looks like, it does fit on there. I would say that this actually looks better on this figure than it does on the figure that it came with, honestly. So, I mean, if you wanted to put this on your actual Mary Jane figure and then use this for this, that looks pretty good. And also, the hair actually lines up pretty well with this body. Whereas I think on the original body, her head sits a little bit high. This actually looks a lot more natural. So I do like that. That is an option. But let's get her Spinneret head sculpt back on there and take a look at the articulation. So she does have a hinge and a ball joint up at the head, so she can look up this far, which is very, very nice. She can look up or look down this far. Some rotation and a little bit of attitude. That's going to be a little bit more limited when it comes to this head sculpt, of course. And your arms go up. You get a nice Y pose, I'd say. Actually, you can probably go up a little bit more. That looks pretty sharp. Full rotation in the arms, a bicep swivel, some double jointed elbows. Very, very nice. Wrist rotation and a hinge. Your diaphragm crunches forward just a tad bit, not really anything to speak of, and back a little bit more. And you get some swivel, and then you get some nice dipping back and forth, or side to side, I should say. This could definitely benefit from a little bit of a adjustment, but I don't know if I'd really want to cut out a little slot in there, because I mean, it's already kind of gappy right now, so that's something to think about. But in order to get her in more Spider-Man type poses, you might want to just take a little chunk out of there. But anyway, to the hips, very, very nice outward motion. And then you can go forward a little bit better than horizontal, I'd say. Go back just a tad. Nice thigh swivel. Double jointed knees look really, really good. And no foot rotation, but your ankles can go down. Get them to go up pretty nicely. And then an ankle pivot. I don't know why, but I just really, really like the thighs on this figure. They look proper. You know, so a lot of the times with Marvel Legends figures, they don't have really good proportions, and I just think that this body mold overall looks really, really good. I do like it a lot. It's pretty sharp. Generally, the Marvel Legends female figures don't look like adult women, so. But I don't know what I was just trying to say. Anatomy-wise, she looks pretty good in my opinion. The muscle groups all look really, really nice, and her bone structure looks good. There's no weird things like some other Marvel Legends do, like for this figure, an example. It overall looks pretty sharp, so I definitely recommend the whole set just for this figure alone, honestly. But before we take a look at Spider-Man, I forgot to mention this. She does come with another fisted hand, another thwipping hand. You can see those there. And some nice wall crawling hands. So that's pretty cool. Taking a look at the Spider-Man figure. Here he is. And in all honesty, I did not like this figure at all when I first seen it. I had a lot of issues with it, down to the head sculpt, the spider being too big, the placement of the belt. I have a real issue when they place Spider-Man's belt this low. It bothers me like crazy. Spider-Man's belt should be at the height of where an actual belt would be, you know, closer to this design. It should be where a belt is. Now this figure is a little bit different because obviously if you move this body around, then the belt disappears. So that's what a lot of people's issue is with this figure, or at least the previous figures using this mold. You don't have that problem with this. But in terms of the placement, it should be up here. If you look at Tom Holland's Spider-Man suits or Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man suits, the belt is at the height of where a belt should be. Andrew's suit is a little bit different. His rides low. I don't like that. But majority of the time, if you look at Spider-Man artwork, the belt is where a belt would be. I don't like this. It's way too low, and Hasbro does that all the time. They've done it with this figure and previous ones. That bothers me. I have come around on the spider, though. I will say that I do like the spider. It's definitely too big, but as far as the design goes, I do like it. The back spider, not so much. It's shaped a little bit weird. It's got really long upper legs. And obviously they did that so it would work for the butterfly joint, but overall it looks pretty good. And I have come around on this figure a lot. I do like it. It's not my favorite Spider-Man figure by any means, but it's really, really sharp. It's got a nice finish on it. Everything matches pretty well in terms of the colors and the finish. The webbing all looks very sharp on the figure. I like the design of the webbing. This one doesn't look as good as to me in terms of the webbing pattern. This one looks very, very nice. The shoulders are okay. I have an issue with the shoulders. I don't like this little dip that's in there. There's like a crack in the shoulders. I don't like that. Just a sculpted line that's on both sides. It's not what shoulders look like. But overall, I think the figure is pretty good. I don't like it as much as other people do, but it's not too bad. And as far as new pieces go, these hips are new. Obviously, you get the pinless joints this time around. The biceps are definitely new. And the shoulders are new. I don't know if the forearms look like they might be new. Not just retooled. They look like they might be new sculpts. There's a lot of new going on here. This head sculpt is the same as the previous one. I have the one from the first 2-pack, but mine is currently being repainted, so I can't give you a proper comparison for that. But we will do some head swaps here just to give you an idea. Well, actually, let's take a look at this first. So you can see that they did a fairly fine job with it. I would have preferred the hair to be a little bit more of a brown, because as it is, it's kind of like a grayish brown, and it makes me feel like he's starting to go gray, and I don't really like that. I mean, this technically is supposed to be an older Spider-Man, but I don't really like the hair color. But as far as the paintwork goes, it's pretty nice. On camera, it looks really, really shiny. It doesn't look like that in person. It's really been hard to kind of get a lighting setup that doesn't make this figure look like a greasy Italian, but that's what it's coming across as. This definitely doesn't look that bad. It's a little bit shiny in person, but not that bad. Like, you can just see the difference between something that's got a flat paint coat on it, which this is got to be redone because you can see that's really chalky. I don't know when I did this, but it was a while ago. And to give you a little bit another comparison, here's the Mafex Black Suit Spider-Man head sculpt. And it looks like the head's a little bit smaller, but I would like to see what this head looks like on here. And it's not going to be really possible to pull that ball joint out right now. So we're not going to be able to do that. I thought we were going to be able to, but I forgot what type of neck joint it had. Taking a look at the Spider-Man head that it comes with. I don't know, guys. I'm not a big fan of this head sculpt. I like the shape of the eyes for the most part. I like how the white kind of bows in like that. It doesn't really match the black frames though. But in terms of the white by itself, I like how it comes in. It kind of reminds me of the McFarlane style where his eyes look a little bit angrier just because he draws little tips on the white. Generally speaking, the tips are on the black part and the white is generally more of a normal point like this. Kind of comes to a normal point, whereas this one has that hook. That's generally how McFarlane drew the eyes. Not the overall shape, just that little hook right there. So that kind of reminds me of McFarlane because it makes the eyes look a little bit meaner. But the black border doesn't have that too, so it kind of looks a little bit weird. As far as the webbing pattern goes between the eyes, that looks a little bit strange because the paint doesn't quite line up. And also the shape of the head is odd because the jaw is wider than the top of the head. Generally speaking, you'd want the jaw to go, or the top of the head to be bigger, wider than the jaw. This makes Spider-Man kind of look like he's got a brick for a head. So I don't really like that. Front to back, it looks pretty solid, honestly. I do like that a lot. But straight on, I'm not a fan of it. It should look, and these aren't even really good examples of what the head shape should look like, but whoop. This looks a little bit better. It's kind of hard to see because my fingers are in the way, but the top of the head is wider than the jaw. And that's generally what you want. You can see that with this figure. You can see that with this figure, the Spider UK head. That's generally speaking what you would want the head to look like. This doesn't really follow that, so I'm not a fan of that. But as far as the rest of the details go, like I said before, it looks pretty good. All the colors match pretty well. All the paintwork looks pretty good. The back of the spider is probably the weakest part on this figure. And they did do this time around. So when you bend the ab crunch forward, you get that. That wasn't like that on the retro one. The retro one just left it blank. So you just had that little cutout right there. So it generally kind of looked like that, which isn't that bad, but it's better than this. But the paintwork does go all the way through, and I like the actual design of the red pattern here, where it kind of gets a little bit wider at the top. The retro one had it go straight up and then hook out, or kind of like it kind of had it go straight out. Here, I'll just show you. You can see how it goes straight up and then out. This one is more of a general, a gradual, I should say. Oh my goodness. It gets wider eventually. So I think that looks a little bit better. I should have grabbed the Amazing Fantasy figure too, so I could just show that in the size comparisons, but I didn't grab that. But we got some few figures to look at. But overall, this guy looks pretty good, and you got the pinless joints and all that. So he's not that bad. He's not my favorite Spider-Man figure, but I've definitely come around on him. I've come around to the figure a lot since I've gotten it. Or actually, that's why I did end up picking it up, because my opinion has changed on it. But I still have the issues that I have with it still stand. The head is weird, the spider's too big, the belt's too low, and I'm still not a fan of this overall body. The proportions on it are a little bit off. The shoulders should be bigger, and also I'm not a fan of the way that the diaphragm wraps around the rest of the abs. That should be a lot snugger, much more of a snug fit. You can see that in the Amazing Fantasy body mold. That is much more snug, similar to this. There's no big gapping. You can't really you can't like puff the chest out without a big gap. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I'm not the biggest fan of this. But as far as the articulation goes, you get a double ball peg at the top of the head. It's way too deep though. Can't really see that in there, but it goes like all the way down here. So you don't get that much range and it doesn't look that good. But this is all things that we've seen before. The head doesn't go down that far. You get a rotation in the head, a little bit of leaning back side to side. The butterfly joints are not that useful. The arms can go up a little bit past horizontally. Full rotation in the shoulder, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, wrist move side to side and go forward and back. And you get a dipping from side to side on the figure. A little bit of crunch with your ab crunch and your diaphragm joint combined. You can go that far forward. You can go pretty dang far back, but you get a lot of gapping from that diaphragm joint. It doesn't need to be like that. Your legs move out this far, and he does have the drop down hips again, but this time it's a little bit stronger. Excuse me. His legs move out about horizontally, maybe a little bit better. They can move back just a little bit. Thigh swivel, double jointed knees, boot rotation. Now, I said in my Carnage video that I'm not a fan of the boot rotation, and I still am not. I don't think it's a useful piece of articulation. But I also said that it doesn't work on I don't like it on a Spider-Man figure. I take that back because when you have the boot rotation, it allows you to mold the leg in blue and red. So that's why it's useful. With some figures, you don't get that, so it has to be painted. So I prefer it on a Spider-Man figure because of that, but I don't like it as a piece of articulation. But it works because you get to mold it two separate pieces. Anyway, the ankles move down that far, go up that far. You get a nice ankle rocker and your toe articulation. And before we move on to the size comparisons, I do want to mention the fact that my figure came with not one, not two, but 3 whipping hands. So I got 2 left-handed whipping hands, and I didn't get a second wall crawling hand. So I'm missing my right wall crawling hand, and then I have 2 extra left wall whipping hands. So it's like I didn't even get the proper side to the whipping hand. Like what would have made sense is if I got 2 whipping hands on the right side, because I'm missing the right wall crawling hand. So I really only have 2 right-handed, a fist or a whip hand. All the other hands are left-handed. So that's a bummer. But these are the same whipping hands that we've seen before, and the wall crawling hands are the same we've seen before, but you can interchange the Amazing Fantasy hands in here. I don't know how much the color matches. It doesn't really bother me. Either way, it's just a bit of a bummer. But that's a bit of a shame that I don't get the other wall crawling hand. But getting these guys stood back up here, take a look at some size comparisons. Here they are compared to 2 Marvel Legends Spider-Man figures, the Retro Collection figure with a Spider UK head and the all-new, all-different Spider-Man Mark IV Spider Armor. Oh. Here they are compared to the Reveltech Spider-Man, which I didn't realize how close these guys were in color until I got them both on the table here. And then your newest Mafex Comic Spidey. So there's that. And then, of course, here they are compared to Face-Off Cap and Modular Iron Man. So those are your size comparisons. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I definitely got to say that I do recommend this 2-pack for the most part. I really like the Spinneret figure, and you get a lot of cool things with her. The Spider-Man it's pretty good. It's not as good as I think everybody is saying. The same with this one. Everybody thought this was really good. I don't think it's... this is definitely better than this, but I don't think this is that good to begin with. And I was going to do some head swaps with these two, but these heads are really, really tight. So, and I don't feel like putting my figure at risk but I was going to do that. But if you want to see that, I'm sure there's other videos out there that are showing that. But as far as these two figures go, it's definitely pretty good. I like the figures. I like the head sculpts. Overall, everything came out pretty sharp and neat. This is definitely a really, really nicely painted Spider-Man compared to what we've seen in the past. Just in comparison to this one, this figure looks incredible. The paintwork, the overall anatomy is a lot more, is much more improved. This one looks really good. She looks like a feminine superhero. She looks really good. I like the proportions on her. The paintwork, again, the sculpting, everything looks phenomenal in both camps. So if you guys agree, I would definitely go ahead and pick this up. And if you like the video, maybe hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell. All of that good stuff would be greatly appreciated if you choose to do so. And of course, until next time, true believers.